Welcome to B2B Marketing Unlocked, the podcast that helps CEOs, business leaders, and marketing executives unlock brand growth. In each episode, I bring on industry experts to share their journeys, lessons learned, and the marketing secrets that drive results, while also sharing my own strategies along the way. I'm your host, Jony Mansilla, founder of Jony Studios, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I'm really excited because today we have Tyler Dow with Kinetic Data. He is the head of marketing. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's just jump in. I want to know how you first got into B2B marketing and what your current role looks like. Let's just get right into it.
When you're 2 years old, you join and you say, I want to be a B2B marketer, right?
No, not really.
No, never. Nobody says that. I actually started my career wanting to go into broadcast journalism.
Oh, wow.
And kind of like yourself, like wanting to be into the production, being excited about equipment and putting together creative ideas, and loved it. And from there, I needed a website to host everything and realized that, you know what, I kind of like building websites more than I do creating B-roll and packages to air on broadcast. And then I think that as marketers, it's really helpful to have that foundation of the technical side, like what goes into making a video, what goes into making a website. And I found throughout my career, when I started as a developer, I got into then project management, and I was able to both talk with clients and talk with the developers. And so that made me a shoe-in for project management. And from there, my career kind of went into more on the marketing side and leading marketing teams. And it's always been in the B2B space. That
is awesome. Yeah, I usually find that with B2B marketing, it's a journey that gets you there. It's not usually like the end goal, you know?
Right.
But it's super fascinating how you went from broadcasting to that. And I can definitely tell you have that background because you have the best setup so far of any guest we've interviewed. You have the headphones, you have the mic. You know, that's not a prerequisite to join the podcast, but it's definitely appreciated, especially coming from an audio background. From what I do, I appreciate that. So
yeah.
Tell me about Kinetic Data. So this is the company you're currently working at. What do you guys do, and how do you fit into that puzzle?
It's really kind of a fun problem as a marketer. You've got this platform that's been around for over 20 years. So it's a software platform. We've got some really, really large customers in both the enterprise and government, and this platform has been around and solved a lot of problems over the years. It started with a very niche bolt on to another piece of software. Then it morphed into a little bit more of expanded into being able to support other pieces of software. And now it's become this platform that can really do anything when it comes to kind of decoupling your technology stack and making work more efficient for the people who are in creating workflows and organizing all their technology. So as a marketer, I get to see this as a huge opportunity to kind of reframe this technology and tell a story. The story that nobody wants to hear is that this platform can do anything. It could run a vending machine. It could change the oil in your car. It could organize all of your SaaS into one workflow. Without a story, without a purpose, without a need, B2B marketing falls flat and just kind of blends in with everything else. And so over the past year, I've been with Kinetic for a year, and it's been a year-long journey of kind of figuring out what is this really special story that we've got that nobody else has. And it's been fun working with our leadership team and hearing from our employees about what makes us special. And as a B2B marketer, leaning into that and trying to amplify that is extremely important.
That's amazing. I love that, to be able to actually find out what makes you unique, and the fact you guys are going to customers and different places to see, okay, what's our story? What makes us different? How can we market this? Because I think, especially in the tech world, it's really hard to find that definition. And I feel that's where a lot of companies can struggle is, okay, like, who are we targeting, right? So I want to jump into that question. But before we do, what does your marketing team currently look like? Like, do you run everything or do you work with some other people? Like, walk me through that.
I'm very lucky to have a fractional CMO. Her name is Natalie Huff, and she is fantastic as kind of an overarching where should we go. She helps certainly guide some big picture strategy, working with our leadership team as well. She's the one that brought me into the role. And then we've got a slew of contractors. So we've got somebody that helps with some content and social media. And then we're leveraging contractors on Upwork, and certainly leveraging the work of AI and leaning in heavily into there to make my job more efficient. In terms of full-time hires at Kinetic Data, it's just me.
Right on. That's awesome. And we're moving a lot more towards that, like it's a whole new world for the marketing space, obviously for every space, but I feel like AI, especially now, it's such a whole new thing that's bringing so much value if you can actually give it the right prompts and have the right setups to create things that are still valuable, right? But like at scale.
Yeah. And that's it's like the blessing and the curse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not only can come in and basically replace some roles that normally you'd need humans creating this work. And so it's certainly taking on some of that, which is unfortunate for the roles. But on the flip side, you can do so much as a marketer with one person and the right tools now. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, in my opinion, is going to be better for society, better for the whole, because we've got really smart marketers that are armed and equipped with these tools to do so much more. And so we're going to see, gone are the days that you need a huge bench of marketers to really make a splash. And it comes to how much money can you spend to really get your marketing out there. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you're a small company with a really interesting product and a really interesting story, a really good marketer could come in and tell that story very easily with a bunch of tools at their disposal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to create some really fun and innovative and creative marketing that we haven't even seen yet, and be able to amplify some of these smaller brands, smaller companies that have a really interesting story that story needs to be told.
It really levels the playing field, I would say now. Like it's so different. And I've even heard that a lot of companies that are afraid of AI and not leaning into it, in the next couple of years, it could be their downfall, right? So you have to, as a company, always be innovating, always be finding out how to automate more processes and create a lot more value using AI. So I think now it's going to be more, people are going to be more from a strategic lens instead of like the actual manual tasks that you need to do. And we're already seeing that shift. So it's crazy how that's going.
In the past 2 years, I was just talking to somebody about how crazy has marketing changed in just 2 years? I'm done sending emails. Social, everybody can do post generically on social media every day of the week. And I think it goes back to that story and that uniqueness. Like what can you create that just isn't out there right now? What's entertaining? I think that's what's going to break through. Marketing has gone from kind of the tactical, just send a bunch of emails, flood the zone, to really let's make interesting, great to watch, entertaining content that people are going to lean into.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think too, personal is going to be a big thing. Personal brands, like even how we're having this conversation, it's more important than ever now, kind of humanizing your brand. And, whether it's the CEO or different salespeople or like kind of showing up with your own personal thoughts, ideas, stories, and you can use AI to help you get that message across. But the more unique it is to you and your story, I feel like that's what's going to resonate more. And then in turn, that kind of helps the entire brand get leverage, right?
Absolutely. And as marketers, each of us needs to be worried about, or not worried, but excited about what our personal brand can be. If we've got all these tools at our disposal, being able to tell our own story through these tools is also really, really important.
For sure. All right, let's talk about target market. This is super important for marketers, and I want to ask you, who are you trying to reach right now? Like, what's your ideal target, if you had to say?
Yeah, so Kinetic Data is really special. Where we shine is when you've got a lot of complexity in your organization, and you've got a lot of employees, a lot of revenue, a lot of complexity in your process. And so Kinetic Data, the platform itself, really shines when you can come in and connect a bunch of different tools and software and a bunch of different workflows that involve people. For our target market, we're looking at large organizations. Usually they've got over 500 employees. Usually they've got upwards of 250 million and above. But really, it doesn't come down to just those numbers that you can filter in an ample market filter or something like that. It really comes down to complexity. Because if you've got a lot of complexity in your business, there's likely a lot of efficiencies. When you can bring in a tool like Kinetic Data and make yourself and your company more efficient, that's going to pay off immediately when you can consolidate licenses, when you can save time from onboarding an employee from 3 weeks and nobody has their laptop on day one, when you can do it all in Kinetic Data and everybody shows up, and not only do they have their laptop on day one, they've got their training queued up, they've got all of their accounts provisioned, they're ready to go. Orchestrating that work in a single platform like Kinetic Data pays off dividends down the road.
So I guess the reason why the larger businesses is a better target for you guys is because smaller businesses don't have as many like complex things kind of moving, right? The bigger the organization, the more you need some sort of system to kind of help connect everything to make it run smoothly, right?
Yeah, when you need to fire up a new server or something, and you've only got a handful of people on your team, you can just go to your friend down the hall and say, "Hey, I need a new server." But if you've got 1,000 people that could be asking for a new server, like we've got a customer in the government, there's no way that you could do that at scale with just a handful of people.
Do you have like a principal industry that you guys target, or is it multiple industries? Like, what would you say is your ideal industry?
Yeah, we don't really, I wouldn't say we specialize in an industry. Again, we happen to be in industries that just have a lot of complexity. So we're in the financial services industry. We are in the energy industry, and we are also in healthcare. And that's kind of our sort of enterprise side of the house. The other side of Kinetic Data is government and DoD. And there's a lot of complexity when it comes to working with the state and federal governments and the DoD. A ton of complexity, a ton of compliance, a ton of security that you need to have, and that makes a platform like Kinetic Data shine.
Right on. All right, let's move to what's working. So, what's working best for you guys to drive brand awareness or pipeline?
We've been finding a lot of success when you can really personalize the ask in LinkedIn, in emails. Tools like Ample Market have really helped us do that, to be able to find the opportunities and find the right moment for people who might be looking for a solution like Kinetic Data. And then LinkedIn is kind of our main platform of choice. So we're doing some advertising on LinkedIn. In terms of what's working, I would say the ability to test and learn in general is what's working in today's age. If an ad isn't performing test, swap it out and test it for something else. Continue to test, and testing at scale is really what I would consider working for our marketing at Kinetic Data.
I feel like that's key in any marketing. It's always A/B testing, seeing what's going. It's not one big thing that just completely dominates. It's usually a lot of little iterations until you start getting to it. Tell me about Ample Market. I haven't heard of that. Is that a software tool or?
The way that we use it is they've got really good signals when it comes to data coming from LinkedIn, and they're kind of like a ZoomInfo or a data aggregator. For you to be able to find the people. I mean, that's number one. Find your audience, who you're going to market to, but then also being able to find what's relevant to those people. What are they interested in? Have they taken actions in LinkedIn that might show some intent that they might be interested in something that your company provides? But we've found a lot of really great success with Ample Market. They've got the best data that we've seen when it comes to a tool like data aggregators and contact info.
Oh, that's great to know. And does it just provide contact info, or can you also, does it do like automated emails as well, something like instantly?
Yep. So they have the concept of sequencing and being able to go into and send messages and queue people up for phone calls and things like that.
Right on. That's great. And then you said you run LinkedIn ads. Do you guys run any other ads anywhere else, or just do you primarily focus on LinkedIn?
We are primarily focused on LinkedIn. Over the last year, it really has been, before we wanted to start spending money and flooding the market with ads from LinkedIn or from Kinetic Data. We wanted to make sure that we had the right story. And so testing out some content on LinkedIn, testing it with in email, and just getting that feedback into what message is working. Been a years-long process of really finding that authenticity around who we are, what problems we solve, and then how do you tell that to the market. And so we've slowly been ramping up our spend and getting that message out there, because we didn't want to push out a ton of ad and waste a ton of ad spend on a message that just wasn't who we are and also wasn't going to convert.
That's so true. It's that balancing game, right? Because you can spend so much if something's not working, right? But then as you slowly tweak it and you find what's working, then you can kind of keep going with it. And in terms of like the ads you guys are placing there, is it mainly text-based? Like, do you usually have some sort of photo creative, or is it video, or do you go to a lead magnet, or does it just go to your website?
Oh, we're doing a little bit of both. I'll also say we've got a really, really smart social media consultant. Her name is Abby Kelsey, and she's been able to give us some really good insight into here's the types of posts to put out there, and really how to think about our post types and what we want to put out, mixing it up. Just a single image in text is pretty boring if that's all you're doing over time. So we've been using tools like Riverside and getting some video out from our team. We're starting to do more and more webinars now that we've kind of found our voice, found our authenticity, and also creating some documents that are able for people to come in and download and things like that.
Nice. Yeah, I think with the webinars and documents especially, it's a great way to collect the user data, right? So they might not be ready to buy right away, but like you're offering something of value, you get their information, and then you can create a plan to like, how are you going to target them in the future, right? Or what sequence you're going to put them through.
And that's always been, that's been such an interesting conversation that we've had internally as a team, working with our sales team. Do we care if we get an email address from somebody before they download this PDF, or would we actually rather just make it super easy for them to get this information? And we've kind of fallen into the latter of we don't want to really gate anything anymore, because if we're looking at it as a marketing qualified lead, I want a marketing qualified lead to be somebody who's raised their hand and is ready to talk to somebody on our team. They can download as many white papers and case studies as they want until they're actually wanting to raise their hand and talk to somebody. That's still marketing's job to warm them up and get them ready for somebody on the sales team, in my opinion.
Wow, that's an interesting approach. I like that. So just giving all the value up front, no gate, no email. So how do you track that though? So I guess they just receive that value until, if it is a right fit, do they usually come through just directly on the website, or how does that lead generation process work for you guys?
Yeah, that's where leaning into a lot of the retargeting opportunities that you have within LinkedIn, on your website. I mean, the tools that exist out there, from being able to identify people who are on your website for as long as they're available to us in the US. They're really interesting. You don't need to capture an email address, because there's some instances to where you can actually tell who's on your website, because they've got a LinkedIn cookie in their browser, and you don't need their email address anymore. You already know who's on the website, and it doesn't work all the time, certainly, but the people who are interested, I want the people who are responding to our marketing to be reaching out to us to say, yes, I want this, and then making it easy for them to take that next step. I guess any downloadable that we have, there's a pretty clear call to action. I click this link, important. Scan this QR code. If they want to take an action, it's right there, spoon fed. Here's the action you need to take. And rather than me sending them 50 emails in the next month to pester them, I found that just helps your authentic brand kind of come out. We've got this great product. We've got this great platform. Here's the problems that we solve. If you're looking to solve a problem like this, here's an easy CTA to talk to somebody, or to get that next piece of information that's ungated, and you can inform yourself on what kinetic data is before you talk to somebody. Because everybody's doing their own research anyways. It's pretty rare, I would say, for you to cold email. If anybody's doing it and it's working, great, okay, good for you. But I would say it's pretty rare to cold email somebody out of the blue and have them raise their hand and be like, yeah, I'm ready to talk. Let's go. They're going to do their own research, and making it easy for them to understand who you are and what you are and the problem that you solve is critical, more critical, in my opinion, than how many emails you can get in front of them on a daily basis.
I like what you mentioned too about retargeting. I feel like sometimes that gets overlooked. But the importance of retargeting can be huge, right? Especially when you're doing any campaign, retargeting to the people that engaged with it the most, it just gives them another opportunity to engage with your brand, right?
Yeah. And then you can, if you've got all of your pixels set up, and if you've got all of your systems set up, you can retarget them in multiple ways. So if they're on your website, you can really direct that next action pretty easily, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's on Google Ads or some other programmatic play. Once you get them on the website, you've gotten a really good signal from an individual, and you can definitely lean into that.
Right on. Can you walk me through a campaign that has been fairly successful on your end? What were you guys talking about? Was it one of those documents that you just give away, or was it a webinar? And what was the topic of the webinar? If so, just let's get deep into, it can be any campaign or any initiative that you guys have done, but something where you were like, okay, this definitely brought results.
Yeah. A campaign that we launched recently, is very recent, was around our how we integrate AI, and our stance in these enterprise organizations, how they can integrate AI into their system in a really smart and scalable way. And the campaign itself, I think, was successful because of the content. It wasn't necessarily the channels; it was the content. We have our CEO talking about a really great, unique way to think about AI as a layer within your organization, not as here's the one chatbot that we're using for all of our AI requests or things like that. So it's a really interesting piece of conversation, and that's what's made it successful. We also we sponsored a webinar. We gave that talk at a webinar. We've got multiple different worksheets that somebody could take and download and fill out and start making this happen for them in their own organization. I mean, again, one of those like providing value and providing authenticity. Somebody could actually take our worksheet that we put together, and that's how we think about integrating AI into these large enterprise. And you could take that and do it yourself if you wanted to. It would give you kind of the framework to think about how to integrate AI into a really large organization. But what we want is people to get into that mindset of thinking the way that we want them to think in terms of decoupling your AI. Because once you start having that conversation, once somebody is down that line of, oh, actually, I do need to decouple my AI platforms, that makes our talk so much easier because that's what our platform does. But versus rather than having to email somebody to say, this is the way that you should think about it, this is the way that you should think about it, and have us try to sell them on even just an approach, once they've got there and they're thinking in the same way that we think at Kinetic Data, our talk is going to resonate. We're going to close a deal much faster and more efficiently once we're all speaking the same language. So education upfront is key. So we've got a great webinar out there. We've got some downloadable worksheets, and then we're promoting that all over LinkedIn. We're using thought leadership as a way to get that message out too. People on LinkedIn are less likely to respond to a brand pushing them an ad versus they are from a person pushing them an ad.
Back to that personal, right? That's good.
Yeah, back to the person and being authentic in that story. It all comes back to that.
That sounds like a really great piece. And I love what you said about education first, right? Because if you can educate your ideal client, which right for you guys is enterprise, and get them thinking in that way, then they see it's coming from your company, everything's aligned, and then you guys can actually help them with that integration, right? So it's kind of like a win-win-win. So it's like a nice flow, right?
Yeah. If you've got a customer talking in the same way that you do, that first demo call is going to go much better than if you're having to spend the first half of the call just trying to get them to think like you do. If your customer's already thinking like you do, you've got it made.
That's awesome. And that video with the CEO that you were mentioning, how was the format of that? Was it like a fireside chat, or was it kind of like an online thing like this? What was the content like?
Yeah, it was actually, we found an event that made sense. And so we looked at that as, hey, this is an opportunity for us to tell a different story than what we're hearing from some of the other vendors and pitches that are at this event. And so we actually targeted that event as our opportunity to record the message. And so we had that webinar, it aired during the event, and then we were able to take the clips and snippets from that recording and promote it on our own website and channels.
Nice. And then that webinar, I'm assuming, was all virtual, right?
All virtual. Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
That is so cool. All right. We talked about the success, what's working. What's your biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Finding people who haven't just tuned out every single message they get on LinkedIn, every single email that they might get, it's hard to break through. It's really hard to break through. And so finding creative ways to break through is definitely a challenge, especially if you're a software platform. You've got to find a unique interest, a unique angle that tells your story in a way that's interesting. It's difficult at times if all you're doing is if you've got a software platform, focusing on the problems that you solve is an opportunity to get something unique out there. But I would say that when it comes to difficulties, it's really breaking through all the noise that's out there right now.
That's the thing. And right now, more than ever, that's the plus and the downside with AI is that everyone and their mom can be making posts that are generic, right? So it's now thinking through all the really good content is still going to rise to the top. And I feel like that's how it's always been, whether you're a musician or a marketer or a business. It's like, if you make a really bad song, it's not going to pop, right? But if you make something incredible, it's going to start spreading. So it's finding those creative angles to be like, how can we set ourselves apart and create content that is still unique to us, that not every other company can make, right? And that's so hard. I feel like we all struggle with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
It's tough.
Right on. Okay. This has been really good. Let's go to a quick fire round. I'm going to ask you a few questions and then we'll kind of wrap it up from there.
Sounds great.
So what's a marketing resource, habit, or tool you recommend?
When it comes to a marketing resource, I live and die by my Notion documents. Keeping everything within Notion, note-taking within Notion, that's become my second brain. I find that that's really important, just to have one spot to dump all of your thoughts and ideas and organize them there. And gosh, if I didn't have a Notion or something like Notion, I don't know what I'd do.
Nice. That's great to know. Who's someone who's recently influenced your marketing? It can be personal or a celebrity or an influencer. It can be anything.
If you are marketing and you are not listening to Scott Galloway's podcasts, I don't know what you're doing. Scott Galloway for me is he's somebody that really talks about brand as the biggest driver, and being authentic in that brand is critical. And so I find he's got multiple different podcasts. I've also taken some section courses, and definitely look at Scott Galloway and Prof G Markets as a good source of information.
Awesome. Good to know. Advice you'd give to your younger self?
Try hard and fail often. I think as we grow up, especially in our younger years, we're scared to fail, and we're worried about what that looks like in a career. We're worried about what that looks like with friends, but that's where you grow. That's where you learn. That's if you're not struggling, you're not learning, in my opinion. And I'd go back and I'd try much bigger swings as a younger self and see what sticks, learn from what doesn't.
That's so true. Awesome. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and it's been great.
This has been great. Thanks for all you're doing.
That's it for today's episode of B2B Marketing Unlocked. I hope you found valuable insights to help you grow your brand and scale with confidence. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Want to unlock the power of podcasting for your business? Visit jonystudios.com. That's JONY studios.com, where we help businesses create profitable podcasts and content that drive growth. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.